Hi there, you lovely lot, and welcome to Pat's Procrastination, episode 6, brought to you by patspropaganda.com and Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. So, as usual, I am your host, and he is your host, so co-host, Clazzy Clare and Chudders. So, welcome in, get comfy, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. Chudders, how are things with you?
Well, first of all, apologies to everyone because I'd like to say I'm doing my best Barry White impression, but have been a bit under the weather, so it's my fault that we're not recording as early as normal. But hopefully that's given us a bit of time to pause, reflect, and be not too impassioned and disgraced with our opinions this week.
No, it's just give us more time to argue about it and have tantrums about it and stuff like that. So yeah, I noticed, I do have to call you out on it because it's funny to do that you are accommodating Andy Hart's hashtag of dump for Drake.
I like the way you say you noticed that, as if I've been publishing it everywhere and all that was one message to you. But okay, I'll take that. Yeah, no, I'd be quite happy if the Pats move forward with Drake May next year. Hopefully a whole new fresh start, I think, is what may well be needed. But hopefully that's conversations we can have in the close season or something, rather than week 5, week 6, week 7.
Yeah, this is it. Before we get into that, we do need to, because technically when we launched this program, this show, whatever, we did actually put out that it would be a game recap wrap-up type show. However, with how the games have been going recently, there isn't much to recap or wrap up other than the odd play. So
little positive to wrap up other than the odd play.
in some of the games, there wasn't much to wrap up, full stop. I mean, I looked at my notes and there was like barely anything there because there was barely anything to note from the game itself. And this isn't just a slant on the Patriots. It was kind of like the game itself. We were having some really games generally. However, in this game, I fell foul of the Patriots giving me a little bit of hope that maybe they could pull it out of the bag at the end and win it. And spoiler alert, folks, obviously they didn't. And the main play that gets me most frustrated, I know we'll talk about the Parker catch. And this one time that I like being on YouTube is that people could see me doing that instead of me having to explain that I'm doing that. But anyway, thing for another day. That this safety that happened for me feels like it just spotlights on how problematic the O-line is and how problematic the penalties are, how the discipline of the Patriots seems to have gone out the window, walked out the door. Because if the sequence of plays hadn't happened to move them down the field, Mac wouldn't be there and he wouldn't have to try and duck from Matt Crosby and they wouldn't have scored the safety. So if they hadn't have been that far down the field, maybe they'd have been further up, maybe we'd have had something more positive, that sort of thing. Ifs, buts, candy and nuts, and I know it's early for Christmas, but whatever.
I'm surprised you want to highlight. I'm surprised you want to highlight that, because maybe if Gesicki had done a better job of blocking, then Crosby wouldn't have been all over Mac in record time.
See, I was really disappointed Monday morning to see people throwing shade on that, because during that game, he was blocking not as bad. When he came into the team, it was well known and published that he wasn't a blocker. He wasn't there to be a blocker, that kind of thing. So this guy's doing something that he really isn't his strength. He's trying his best. So you're going to get me wound up now. And I really didn't want to do this. I so didn't want to do this. But it did wind me up that you're going to pick on a guy for that one thing that he's not supposed to do. That's not his job. That's not his strength. We know that. He's been trying to integrate.
It's his job. It might not be his strength.
Okay, I can get really annoyed now. He wouldn't have to do that if the O-line wasn't actual complete trash. If the O-line was better and Lowe was actually good at his job like an NFL O-lineman, Gesicki wouldn't have to do that in the first place. And like I said, if they hadn't had the penalties, they wouldn't be that far down the field. So that chip block that Gesicki didn't really do wouldn't have mattered anyway. So you're going to blame a tight end because the Patriots are failing and he didn't do a block. And you're just doing it to wind me up. So now I'm going to shut up and let you talk.
Well, I don't think he's the only reason, but I think it was one aspect of that play that didn't operate. And yes, I may have highlighted it because of your penchant, not only for tight endage, but also for Gesicki. So it was interesting you calling that out and then calling out the pressure on Mac when possibly one of the reasons for that is your binky. But that's interesting that we start here, because it was one of the questions I noted down I was going to ask you, is when they took over possession on, I think it was the 8-9 yard line for that final drive, how confident were you that they were going to go down the field and score to win the game, or certainly to take the lead in the game?
Now, before they got that far down, before the penalties pushed them that far down, I had major hope that something could happen, that they had these glimmers of players who are capable of doing their job. So yeah, I did have hope that they would succeed. Didn't work.
Apologies, I realise I just turned the light meeting it, so I've coughed in all your ears. I'm very sorry, and I'll try not to do that next time.
Lack of professionalism on this show.
Yeah, I'm going to blame Gesicki for that as well. It's definitely his fault. I did that.
Not getting advice about that one.
The answer for me is I didn't have confidence they were going to go down and score. Again, 10 years ago, you think, brilliant, this is perfect, this is the situation. Now, that said, the pass that you've called out where Parker didn't catch it, I mean, I was really as much disappointed with his reaction as I was the inability to catch.
Yeah.
That play comes off, you're in a great position to at least be attempting a field goal. It was a brilliant pass from Mac. It was absolutely spot on. It's probably the only positive we can give him on the day, so I'm not going to pretend I'm giving Mac flowers for his performance that day, but that one pass was spot on. But you're right. I mean, in general, you're right. The O-line still can't block. The reality is, though, the tight ends need to be blocking in a more general, and I'm not meaning just that play, but essentially every lineman that's needed, every blocking protection, whether that's receiver blocking, whether that's a chip from a running back, the blocking game needs to be improving on all levels.
You know what's really frustrating as a tight end enthusiast is the fact that people don't notice how much he's blocking in the game when it's successful, because people are just watching the ball. So you aren't paying attention to how successful or not successful he is until he whiffs and does that one bad block, and you can throw shade at him because you just don't like him very much, or he's not productive enough. So that kind of thing. I watch blocking. You know this. I watched a game. I basically rewatched a game just to see all the different blocks that Izzo pulled out, so that I could say to you how many times that he did actually successfully block, because I know that my obsession with Izzo is foreign to you, and that's fair. But I will watch blocking, so I will see it happen. But because everyone else who's watching the ball is watching the game, fair enough, that's what you're supposed to do. You're missing all the times that they're successful. And that's what I find frustrating. I know he's not a very good blocker. I know that he could do with being a better blocker, that kind of thing. The thing that annoys me is when people completely trash someone for one thing when they don't pay any attention to everything else that they've done. Especially when it's something like that he's there more as a pass catcher than he is as a blocker. It's just that the O-line is so bad that they're having to employ 3 tight ends on a play because nobody can block Toffee.
It's fair. Now my eyes are flicking to the side, because what I was trying to do is to bring up Gesicki's stats to see how he's being graded on his blocking, and I've not quite got there. I don't know if there's a particular site that you use for that, or tool that you use for that.
No,
because I'd be interested. You're right that you're right that I don't watch every single snap focusing on Gesicki to see how his blocking has been that particular play, but there is people that do that and grade that sort of thing. So maybe I'll put that as a bit of homework for myself for next week to have a look at how he's being graded on his blocking ability by the professionals to see for next week.
Well,
but
that's not fair because you can't compare me to a professional because I'm not. And this is just my opinion of how I watch it as a fan. But I see the blocking more is what I'm saying. And that's why I get so frustrated because I'll watch more of the blocking and see that he's actually succeeding to a degree. But people only want to slate for that one thing. So, but that's my little rant over that everybody be like, oh, she's just been all tight-ended again and she's so crazy.
Tight-ended is your brand. I think it's good. You speak clearly and loudly on what you see in the tight-ended game. So I think that's fair for you to do. We probably should move on because I don't think Gesicki's blocking is the reason the Patriots just lost 21-17
exactly.
to the,
there you go. Thank you very much. Now I feel
to
better.
the Raiders. What other positives can we take? For me, the running game seemed slightly better. It wasn't phenomenal, but it was slightly better. It doesn't help that I think the Raiders are ranked bottom or very, very near the bottom in run defense anyway, but at least you're able to exploit that. That looks slightly better. I thought Bentley, Tavai had good games, albeit busy, a lot of tackles getting in there. They're players that are showing heart, showing desire. They're not giving up.
Yeah.
They're working very hard. I could shout them out for a good game, I think. But other than that, there's a lot of negatives that I think we can draw on. Maybe before we look at offense, defense, I'll call out the special teams again, which annoyed the hell out of me in the first half with the leverage penalty when they were trying to block the field goal, which then, now, to be fair, the defense then held up in red zone stand to stop the touchdown going in. But had they given up that touchdown, that would have been fuming. Go on.
To be fair, the broadcaster did say on the broadcast, I can't name because I'm not quite sure who it was, so apologies. He did say something like, and I can't quote because I don't have it written down, but he said something along the lines of, it happens, but it doesn't get called. This is the thing. This is one of those things that generally tends to happen, that it always, but it isn't something that really gets called. So it's like, well, that you almost look at that as like a bad luck situation more than anything. No, he shouldn't do it, granted.
I disagree,
but it's like if it's happening,
if it doesn't happen, it can't be called.
No, and that's what I was trying to get to. But if it happens everywhere and they're only the ones that get called, then that's quite bad luck sort of thing. But no, it shouldn't happen. I wasn't excusing it. I was just giving that back bit of information that was said by someone who knows shed loads more than I do.
And me. No, that's fair. Are there any other positives, though? I guess I should have checked with you. Is there any other positives you wanted to call out from the game?
Well, you mentioned Tavai. The one thing that I've noticed that I've written a list of names that I thought like good and bad, as I know they do on plenty of different shows. They do the good and the bad, that kind of thing. So I just made a note just for myself, really. And there was definitely some names there of players that I hope stay to create that structure. So if this is, I know this is something that we'll talk about as well, but if this is one of those kind of pick it apart, break it down and like rebuild it back up with certain individuals, there's definitely some players that I believe are good players and are on my list now from watching on that game. And like, yes, this is the thing. The Patriots do have good players, which is why what is going on still confuses me so much, because I look at it and say, well, there's so much good here and there that why is it migrating this? Oh, what did I call it? The fog of funk, or the cloud, the cursed cloud. Thanks very much. The cursed cloud. It's as if the sort of the problems are spreading. They're seeping out into the players who are really good, like the Cardona thing I mentioned the other week. And it's just looking at that list thinking, oh, but look at that happened, that was great, he was really good. So a bit of a long-winded,
so
went round in my tail.
I have a slight, I know what you're saying, and I have a slightly different take on that, because I think there's very few players the Patriots have that are elite. They have some good players. They don't have very many elite players. When you look at rosters matching up each week, there's few that you'd think the Patriots have the better roster. Now, the point behind this is in the good old days of the Patriots, but not just the Patriots, in any team really, a lot of the difference can be in winning and losing games is those good players, you make them play above their level. You make them perform at a higher level. Now, I would argue that those good players are not even playing at their good level. They're playing below their standards at the moment. Receivers aren't catching. Quarterbacks aren't throwing well. Running backs, although they had a better game, haven't been running at the level that we'd expect them generally. O-line haven't been blocking. It's throughout, everyone is almost lowering their game collectively. For me, the reason behind that is coaching. The best coaches get the very best out of players. How long has Bill been saying, we want to look at what you can do, not what you can't do? We want to put you in the best position to win, except mantras like that, that when you look at the way the Patriots have been playing this season, is not accurate. That's not, they haven't been getting the best out of the players. They haven't been making them play above their levels.
That's a really good point.
That's kind of the approach I've taken when I've been looking at that similarly, I guess.
No, and that's really fair. The thing that I had was I was just so confused as to how it could spread so badly when we watch these guys and are like, you know, Bourne played a good game. Tavai he really seemed to blast it for me for this, you know, this game. He was so good. And it's like, you know, you've got these really good players. Why are you playing at such a low level? But what you're saying obviously makes complete sense. The question that I wanted to ask you as you were saying that is, you say that the Patriots have got no elite players. But what is your measuring stick for elite? And how many NFL teams have a lot of elite players?
So I mean, elite, you could be saying that that's things like Pro Bowlers. You could be saying that's teams that are going to be in maybe the championship or even the playoffs. I think there's few players, particularly on offense for the Patriots, that would be in the starting 11 of many of the what are likely to be the playoff teams this year. They don't have many elite weapons. You could argue they got none. You came into the season, Stevenson looked a brilliant running back last year. He's going to be nowhere near a Pro Bowl, for example, this year, because he's not been running anywhere near. Elliott, in some games, has looked far better than Stevenson. In some games, he's done absolutely nothing. You could say that's O-line and other reasons, but it's the point that he's not looking elite. I don't think that you don't have any receivers that are elite. I'd be interested if anyone could argue that, and you've certainly not got a quarterback that's elite.
Well, you initially didn't say weapons. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Go on, because you used
on the defensive side, you could on the defensive side you could say Judon. I think he is. He's obviously injured now, but he is someone that I think the top teams would want on their roster. The way he started the first 5 games, I think you could argue Gonzalez as well. To be fair, I mean he won Player of the Month for September. I think he's one you could argue. Outside of that, they have some good players, and I would agree with you that Tavai is an example of one that's been almost playing above his level, as I was saying earlier, because he's not a great player, but he's a good player, but he's playing at a higher level at the moment, probably because he's trying to prove that he wants to be part of the future of the NFL, hopefully the future of the Patriots. But if it's not the Patriots, he wants a contract somewhere else.
No, that's fair. There was a few defensive players that stayed on my good list. So I don't know. Is the fact that the defense is good a reflection of the biasness of Bill Belichick? Are we looking at, is the state of the Patriots now, with the way that the offense is and the way the defense is? Because, I mean, I know obviously that they're 1-5, but the defense have played rather well for most of the games that we've seen, at least in fits and starts, because obviously they've had losses due to injury and stuff like that. So does this just reflect Bill Belichick of very mediocre when it comes to offense, doesn't really believe that the offense needs to be any good, and the defense is where you need to stack everything? He's still looking at, I'm going to win games because I've got this defense.
I definitely think that's his way of looking, is that he wants, he thinks he can win games from building a strong defense. Go on.
And so to that end, because everybody's talking about a new coach and things like that, it's everywhere. Now, I'm not an advocate for getting rid of Bill, not mid-season at least. But looking at it, the next one up apparently is Jared Mayo. So that's another defensive guy. Will they ever get away from, is defense over offense going to be the Patriots, always going to be the Patriots way? Because it is the Patriots way.
I hope not. And personally, I hope that Mayo isn't the next head coach of the Patriots, not because I don't like the guy. I do like the guy. I don't want to continue in that defensive mindset. I would rather see an offensive wizard, if you like, come in and try and rejuvenate and turn us into a more offensive approaching team. I would love it if Mayo could stay on and head up the defense, the defensive coordinator. I'd love that. But I wouldn't want to look at him leading the team going forward. To just step back and answer your previous question a little further, Bill's approach with building a roster, I mean, quite clearly, the first 3 picks in the draft last year were defensive players.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue the best free agency signing he's made was a defensive player in the last 3+ years. That's where he's really gone out and splashed on talent. You could even say back as far as Gilmore was a free agency pickup where he splashed money. Judon is where he went and got the best available edge rusher. He invests in the defense, I think, more heavily than he has done with offense, generally, not in totality, but generally. And I think, to be fair, he's better at coaching defense. And so that's why I think the Patriots have been stronger there as well.
When you look at it like that, and you say that you want to bring an offensive mind in, 2 comments came to mind in regards to that. Firstly was, looking at it as a comparison, at the moment we've got a defensive mind and he's all about the defense. If you bring an offensive mind in, they'll be all about the offense and they'll have a terrible defense potentially. But the thing that is even more prominent at the moment and more relevant at the moment is he supposedly brought in that offensive, brilliant coach to support Mark and everything. And it has been said in jest, but it's terrible, that this season has so far been worse than last season. And last season they didn't really have a proper offensive line coach and a proper offensive play caller. Sorry. Now you've got one in Bill O'Brien who is supposed to be fantastic, and I'm not saying he's not. Please don't get me wrong. But we all were so excited. A lot of us, were excited for him to come back and to see that they've got a proper offensive play caller. I feel like, where is he then? That doesn't necessarily fix it, because, where is he?
No, I'd agree. I think the defense has not performed anywhere near the level that we'd want, and I think that is potential. Yeah, sorry. Offense. It hasn't performed anywhere near the level that we want, whether that's through scheme, whether that's through individual ability. whether that's through coaching. Adrian Clem doesn't appear to be any form of wizard as an O-line coach. He's
not sure what he's
pretty much
having
the
to
worst in
deal
the
with,
league.
though. The product that he's having to deal with, we're not too certain.
Yeah, it's not been good enough. It simply hasn't. It needs improving in talent, and it needs improving in coaching. As Bill will tell us every week. Well, no, he'll tell us it's coaching and performance, but it would also help Bill if you built a better roster. But he isn't going to say that on Monday morning.
Okay, so we've covered the goods. We've covered the bads in a way, I guess. Did you want to single out some bads? See, now I feel bad singling out Parker because I've had my little Gesicki rant, so now people will say, "Oh, well, you can't single out Parker." I can't win, can I? I just can't win.
The things that were really disappointing is, as a collective, and I'm not going to call it necessarily individual plays here, but as a collective, you couldn't stop Hoyer marching down the field on you. They're bringing in the backup. And I don't mean that as a diss against Hoyer. He's been a loyal backup servant to the Patriots. But, halfway through the game, the opposition brings in their backup quarterback, and, he didn't stop them moving the ball. Penalties on offense. The first two plays of the offensive drive, first offensive drive, were penalties. You come out and you say last week, we're doing a hard reset, we're going to start again, start afresh, and you have two penalties in a row. It's awful. O-line blocking was bad. The interception that was thrown was really bad. He should have had another one later on in the game. It's and yet again they showed that they started poorly and that they can't finish with a drive to win a game.
No, that's fair. And I don't really think there's much else to say, to be honest. So we'll just finish early. People don't need 30 minutes anyway.
Did you have any more tight-ended you wanted to discuss in maybe a more positive light?
No, it's better if I don't talk tight-ended this week. We're just going to leave that alone. I'm going to try and edit out my rant if possible.
No, keep it in. It's fine.
I'll be unsuccessful because my editing skills suck.
I'm going to take away homework to look at how the Patriots tight ends have been graded for their blocking ability this year to see whether I'm missing a trick there. That's on me.
The thing is, I don't know how to grade and things like this. I never shy away from saying I'm just a fan. I'm just going on what I've seen. So I'm just going on, I saw the competent blocks happen. And then I just felt really disappointed that it was just pointed out that the one bad block that he pulled out, everybody sort of piled on. And it's just as a fan, I hate that kind of thing anyway, whoever the player is. Now, then I could argue the fact that they could say, well, what about Parker? You've criticised Parker. And it's like, well, technically catching the ball is definitely his job. We know that it was a catchable ball. And the worst thing is he didn't take the responsibility afterwards. What is that face for?
You say that catching a ball is definitely Parker's job, as if blocking is not Gesicki's job. As a tight end, that is your job. If you're a receiver, yes, catching the ball. And Gesicki is also a receiver. It's part of his job to be catching the ball. But as a tight end, you're also a 6th, 7th, 8th, depending on how many you got on the field. O-lineman, your job is to block. That's why they're 6'8" and 250 pounds, because they're expected to block. It is part of their job. Some do it better than others. There's different gradings. There's, Gronk was amazing at it. And then you could say someone like Tony Gonzalez was a far better receiver, wasn't really a blocking tight end. He was more of a big receiver. Some that are better at it than others. But essentially, when you're in those protections, it is your job.
I guess.
We'll agree to disagree on that one, I'm guessing.
No, it is a tight end job. And yes, what you're saying is true. And that, I guess I just get frustrated because of being a fan just in general and hate that someone's getting shade just for sort of that kind of thing. But yeah, anyway.
The one other tight end question I was going to have for you was Brock Bowers getting injured in college football,
I
now having an operation,
know.
and you know, how's that affecting you? I know he was on your hit list for next year.
Yeah, he is.
The draft.
I didn't actually expect the Patriots to be going that way anyway. So yeah, it's really awful for him, but it wasn't like from a Patriots perspective of, oh no, now they're not going to draft him, because they weren't going to draft him in the first place anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Fair enough. So shall I move on to my underrated player of the day?
Yeah, but you need to hurry up.
This week sponsored by Amazon Web Services. Because if you have problem losing losing your backups, then they are the place for your digital services to keep you back on track. No, you're going for a stoic face this week, trying not to encourage me to keep up these awful.
That's not your best work.
It's not my best work.
No.
Fair enough. I'm going to give it to Peppers. I didn't think he had an all-round phenomenal game, but just for me, the highlight of that game was his hit on Adams. I just loved that.
Yeah.
Love a big hit. Absolutely rocking that man's body. Brilliant, like that hit. So he's winning that one for me.
Okay, agreed. I'm happy to give that one a gold star as well, because I really liked that play.
And to touch on the bets, I'm sure Kaseki, I'm still doing fine on that. Wins 100% on that. The Patriots now 4th in the division in sole place because the Jets won again. Not looking good for your bets. Now, I'm tempted to introduce something new here we can do each week, and this isn't a bet. But one thing to look behind the scenes, everybody, that Claire gets slightly frustrated with me about is when I'm looking ahead to the draft and thinking about how that could affect Patriots playing now and
after week 2. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm interested to introduce a Claire tracker, okay, where 10 is she's still on board with winning every single game. That's her entire focus. Win this week, win this week, win this week, win this week. And 0 being, you know what, I'd be quite happy with a loss because we're going to get a high draft pick. Mm-hmm. So on that scale of 0 to 10, and I'm going to ask this every week now, where is Claire currently? And I'm guessing we're still early in the season. My assumption is you'll still be 10. But I'm interested to see how
I'm still that end, at least.
Exactly. How far into the season, and maybe with particular matchups, whether it wavers at all. That's what I'm interested in.
Like 8.
8. Okay. I genuinely thought you were going to say 10, and you were all aboard. No, I want to win every game. I want to beat the Bills.
No, I'm depressed now because of the whole Gasecki thing, and I wish I could cut it out, but I can't. So
fair enough. So next game, home against the Bills, 1 o'clock kickoff or 6 o'clock if you're in the UK. They're coming off a scrappy win against the Giants. What's your prediction, Claire?
That the Patriots lose. That's it. That's all I've got for you.
You've lost all hope, haven't you? Well, no, you haven't lost hope because you have more hope than most of us.
I'm just done now.
You've
broke me.
I broke you. Is this?
Yeah, the whole Gasecki thing has broke me now. I'm done. We're trashing this episode. The end.
Is this the first week you've actually predicted a loss, though? I think it is.
I'm lying. They're going to win.
So they're going to win. Okay, so they're going to beat the Bills. By how much?
A field goal.
Field goal win over the Bills.
Oh, no. Okay. They're going to beat them by a touchdown because the defense is going to hold the Bills to a low-scoring game.
Interesting. It's possible. Maybe they could have another weather game, turn on the snow machines, the wind machines again. You know, put them on top of the new lighthouse. That'll affect the game. Okay. And in fact, very quickly to answer a question you had earlier about building offense versus defense, there's more likelihood if we can build a strong offense and win a game 30-27 than having a strong defense and winning 17-13 every week. I think Patriots, I'm being as positive as I can be here. I think the Patriots will lose 24-10.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably right.
Look at this. So can everybody write kind words, please, in the comment section and on Twitter, because I've broken Claire here. So she needs support and love. That Gesicki is the next Gronk, and that tight endage is the way.
No, I never said that.
And
Oh my
everything
gosh,
else.
no.
Give her all the love and support, because I've broken her. We need to mend her for next week, when we'll all be buoyant and happy about the Patriots beating the Bills.
And with just 5 minutes overtime, that is it. Pat's Procrastination, episode 6 is done. We shall return for episode 7, folks. So tune in next time. Make sure you're subscribing to the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel so you do not miss an episode of this craziness. But as usual, tune in next time and go Pats.
LFG.